How can ambiguity be used to help people with their response and reaction to change?
I think it's a huge asset, Rob, and I would say it's a differentiator now, particularly because in the world where very few people can respond to or effectively thrive on change, if you can thrive and work on change, then you have an edge that somebody else doesn't. And the other thing I would say is it's an asset because ultimately, if you can deal with ambiguity at work, it's the same pattern everywhere else in life, which is, there are things outside your control, and things can happen, good things, bad things, things out of the left field. If you have the ability to deal with that adversity, health issues, family issues, what I'm finding is people are just happier, they're less stressed, they are able to work better socially with each other, they're able to empathize, which is really an important quality, and they're able to roll with the punches much better than people who are, all coming in thinking, this is what going to happen, no matter what. If it doesn't happen, the world is over, sky is falling, right? I'm going to go find the next company that gives me that level of certainty and, security, and it doesn't exist anymore. Like, look around you, every large company, as you know, is being disrupted. And there's no safe haven anymore. So I think when I started down in this business, people would ask me like, why would you do startups? Startups are, there's no security in that, in a startup. I have come to the conclusion that there's probably the most security in a startup, because at least you are trying to create the future that you believe in, rather than being beholden to somebody else who's creating the future and you don't know what it is.
Right.
So, again, I'm not necessarily saying it's about large companies or startups, but I think it's fundamentally about assembling groups, whether they're in startups or large companies, that are fundamentally about identifying an opportunity that is disrupting the status quo. And it's about going and defining an outcome around it. And during that journey, change is going to be inevitable. So you may not get to the same outcome you started with when you started. But I think if you've created that mindset that it's okay, our value is in creating, benefits with these customers. How and when and what's the extent of it, it's TBD. We'll figure it out over time. Then I think you're able to get people that thrive on it. And so I think ambiguity is, I would say, thriving on ambiguity is a big leadership principle that all of us have to get better at. And unfortunately, no MBA teaches you that. So it's one of those things where my belief is that the way you create that in an organization is you just be very open and transparent with your company, with your team. You share what's good, what's bad. You share about which customers are happy, why are they not buying. Did we make the right assumptions in our product? Is our go-to-market working? What are our strengths? What's our secret? Like, what's our secret sauce? What's our differentiator? What's our knitting? And what should we do here? I think the more open and transparent you are, and the more you can motivate your teams to work with you, the more you can roll up your sleeves, work with them, and share that it's okay. It works. The other thing I would say is much like waterfall versus being agile. These are methodologies in terms of building products or building sort of business processes. Same kind of an approach can be used for ambiguity, which is instead of thinking about goals and expectations and success in big chunks, you can define those in smaller milestones. And that way you are always failing fast if something's not working. And so what you're doing is incremental changes along the way lead to potentially a huge change over time, but the team doesn't realize it because every time they're noticing a small change. And that's a good way to get our system 2 in the brain to accept change, because every time it's not like somebody's coming to you and saying, we're getting out of this business and you're going completely different. All you're coming and saying is, you know what, we're going to go target those new customers now. And then over time, you're like, you know what, we're going to change our product a little bit. Then you're like, I'm going to change the sales teams a little bit. And before you know it, you've suddenly gone from an on-premises appliance company to a cloud company that is doing analytics, and everything has been retooled. You don't realize it because you've just done 1 degree shift at a time. You've done it over every quarter, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. You make so many excellent points, Prat. The point on transparency, radical transparency, I have experienced the same thing in my career, is to always bias towards just telling the truth, telling the reality as you know it, giving all the information you possibly can to your people engenders trust in them, it engenders enthusiasm, it helps them with the change, and there's nothing but positives. I've never been burned, so to speak, by being too transparent. Obviously, you have to use common sense in terms of contractual confidentiality and things like that. But in terms of trusting your employees to be able to hold confidences in terms of intellectual property that your company has or concerns that you may have, it's absolutely vital to getting them on board and following you. That's all part of the leadership.